and welcome to the Autism News Network podcast. My name is Dr. Frampton Gwynette. You can follow us on theautismnewsnetwork.com. You can follow me at Dr. Gwynette on Instagram and Twitter. We're joined today by two special guests. These are Hall of Famers to the Autism News Network, Clay Seim. Hey, Clay.
Hello.
And Josh Miller.
Hello.
Hey, Josh. These guys are both veterans of the podcast. We love having them on and getting insights from them. And we've been building up to this show for quite a while because today we're going to talk about independence. And as everyone in the audience knows, it makes sense that children who have autism grow up to become adults. The tough part is we don't always plan ahead like we could. So I brought in two experts who are going to share their thoughts and viewpoint on the topic of autism and independence. So Clay and Josh, you guys know kids with autism grow up, but what unique challenges do adults with autism face?
I know for me, personally, it seems like now there's a lot of programs out there, for kids, all the way up to, I guess, you turn 18. But the minute you turn 18, I don't know, it seems from my personal experience, the minute you turn 18, the amount of resources that are available for you just drop like a stone. And depending on what state you live in this country, it can vary to how much resources are there to help.
Right.
Yeah, I would say that Josh has hit the nail on the head with that one. Definitely a instance of just support vanishing. You have, again, so many of these programs, but as soon as you hit, what is it they call it? Transition age, that's the word, where you're no longer a teenager, but you're not quite an adult yet either. You lose a lot of those programs, and you gotta start figuring out a lot of this on your own. Now, there is technically some support structure still there, but it's just so much less than what it was before. Because, you've got the, think of the children before turn 18, where everybody's willing to give a little bit extra to help you out. And it's like, oh, no, you're an adult. You should have this figured out. And it's just so odd that, because, again, this is transition age. So you think it would be a transition from this mountain of support to maybe trying to be a little more self-sufficient. But no, it's a cliff.
Yes.
It's not a slope. It's a cliff. And you just go over the edge, and that's about it. That would be the number one challenge, is that all of a sudden you're in transition age, and people are telling you, oh, you haven't done this yet, you haven't done that yet, you haven't applied for disability, for health insurance, you should have been doing that years ago. It takes years. And you're like, wait, what?
Right.
When you're in school, you have like those instructors and teachers whose job it is to help guide students with disabilities through the education system. But when you become an adult, those people are called social workers. Those people are incredibly overworked and not paid enough and burn out time. And it's not nearly close to the same thing. For instance, the main one for me was that getting health insurance through disability and applying for that. And it's my second time around on that now. It's been a couple of years at least, and we've had to hire a lawyer. The first time they told me, oh, well, you're not really disabled enough.
Right.
So, well, thanks. I'm cured now. That's perfect. The government says I'm not actually disabled. I must be fine. I'll just go now.
Yeah, because.
And I also feel like too that I didn't mean to cut you off there, Dr. Gwynette, but I feel like too that what programs are available for adults, you almost have to pay for it. Almost like, the podcast that me and you did with Social Motion, that's a great group. But unfortunately, like they said in the, unfortunately, they hit the nail on the head too, when they said the founder, insurance won't pay for it. So, people who don't have money, they can't afford it. Because, if you got to pay, if you live, because first of all, you can't really live independent on SSI by itself. Not, and especially not in the Charleston area. I feel like, so if you live with somebody, which you almost have to, and they're also not making that much money. So if it comes between food and bills, and gas and, everything else, you have to start prioritizing. And unfortunately, the couple $100, for social motion, it's just not feasible.
Right. And there's also this other cliff or gap between, like you said, the SSI check. Let's say somebody were able to get disability and get most importantly, the health insurance. But also,
that's what I got.
Yeah, you get a little bit of income, and it's like not quite enough to live independently on, and yet it makes it hard to go out there and get a job, because if you earn a certain amount, you'll lose your disability.
It's the delicate balance of being bad off enough that you need help, but not so bad off that you can't actually get by. It's like we're walking a razor's edge.
Yeah.
And of course, these are just the practical, like financial side of it. There's the entire other emotional side of it after that as well. So it's not even just, can I pay for this? Can I, psych myself up and keep my headspace clear and good to go.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing you picked up on, Clay. And of course, I'm a psychiatrist, so I'll take the bait. But what are the emotions that people can expect, like when you're struggling for independence, like in terms of self-esteem and so forth?
Well, it's kind of again, you shift back and forth from being like, oh, I'm so scared that I won't be able to do this. So there's obviously that anxiety and that fear of, will you be able to achieve independence? There's some guilt associated with, oh, I shouldn't be this much of a burden on the people that I love. Because a lot of times when you can't get those programs to work, and I know this actually is rather common in my generation, let alone people with autism, but you end up mooching off your parents a bit more than say you want to. But yeah, there's the guilt that where I'm having to live in my parents' house and pay like a reduced rent to them because I can't afford what the rent for this room probably actually would cost. Stuff like that. So you have the fear and you have the guilt. You also have the frustration, because a lot of times our cognitive abilities, now this isn't true for everybody, but this is especially true for higher functioning folks, our cognitive capabilities are vastly superior to what emotionally we can handle on a long-term basis. Like if I wanted to get a full-time job, mentally, physically, I could do that job. But emotionally, I'm not sure if I would last long. Like I'd probably end up burning out much more quickly. Like I wouldn't put it past probably 6 months to a year where I'd, just be completely strung out emotionally and have a little freak out and have to take 2 to 3 weeks off and then cut my schedule back to part-time.
Yeah.
The times that I have tried to work to full-time, that is what has happened to me.
I think you make a great point, and for our audience, as you can clearly tell, these are two brilliant guys, and there's no shortage of cognitive ability. The key is putting all the pieces together emotionally and so forth. And Josh, have you had a similar experience in terms of the emotional piece?
I feel like, the biggest thing for me is I agree with everything Clay said. I can sum it up in one word. As I feel emasculated, and and it's not intentional, but in society, we're always taught that especially men are should take care of themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
That
that's the perception, yeah.
And that we're supposed to be independent, and and trust me, I do want to be independent. And when that doesn't happen, when like for me, I'm 33, and I've, for a variety of reasons, school didn't work out for me. The longest I've ever worked was a year. before I got burned out. You know, and it's just, and the stress is, to me, I interpret it as very masculine because, you know, I personally, I mean, I can't speak for everyone on the spectrum, but for me personally, you know, I would love nothing more than, you know, not be, you know, to not be a mooch on the government, you know, to not be a mooch on my mom, you know, and be independent, be financially independent, you know. And to me, what financial independence means, it doesn't mean like these crazy YouTube stars that, you know, that have these mansions and these insane Ferraris and Lamborghinis. That's not what financial independence means.
You want an apartment and your place to call your own. That's about it, right?
Yeah.
I can't stand apartments. So, you know, I would love nothing more. And that's what my mom was, you know, talking about too when I showed her, you know, the other podcast about social motion. You know, I agree with her that, you know, she believes that, you know, it'd actually be cheaper on the government if we had programs in place to help with transition, because a lot of people like me don't want to be.
Well, it's the same thing as many other like medical issues too, isn't it?
Just getting a blank check, you know, every month.
Yeah.
And I would love nothing more than to work for something, you know. I don't want stuff handed to me. I mean, you know, there's no sense of accomplishment or, you know, anything like that. Because to me,
a lot of something really very big there, which is when people work and they get a paycheck, they have self-esteem that comes from that, and also an identity and the independence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and you know, that's, you don't, unfortunately, you don't get that with just a SSI check. And don't take me wrong, I'm thankful for, you know, the money. It helps out. My mom pays the rent, you know, and I'm thankful for, you know, the medical insurance. But, you know, again, I'd rather earn my way than just have something handed to me.
Yeah. So we need more places where people can work with support.
Exactly.
And because you're going to do the work, just the support needs to be there in the long term so that things can be successful.
Well, and again, yeah, no, there's so many different sides to this as well in terms of you think about logistics. So if you're thinking about logistics, what you need to have the logistic to be independent is life skills. So we're talking, so say you have your job, you've gotten well adjusted enough, you have a balance of maybe a time in SSI, and you go out and you get your own place, but you don't drive, you don't know how to do your laundry, you don't know how to cook, you don't know how to keep your space well maintained enough to where you can actually find the clothes that you need to go to work and keep track of various other, you know, paperwork or whatever else that you need.
Yeah, a calendar or
organizational skills, exactly.
Finances.
So if you don't have any of those skills and you have the financial side set up, that's great for the first couple months. But then you start showing up to work in dirty clothes and you stink and your hair is untrimmed and you got nails the size of, you know, it's just, it doesn't work long term. You look like a hobo.
Yeah. So
and for some of us, you know, we'd be like, so what? But that doesn't really work in the professional world. You got to have a baseline standard of hygiene and organization to get by.
Yeah.
And that's another thing.
You really have to have a level above that if you want to actually thrive.
And that's another thing too. You know, I believe that, you know, when you teach life skills, you know, I mean, I know how to drive, but you know, I know how to drive, know how to do dishes and clean clothes and, you know, and keep a clean house. But, you know, even I have a point to where it's going to get clean. I mean, it's not going to get far. But, you know, where was I going with this? You know, but I believe too that, you know, when we go in life skills, you know, we need to teach them I believe how to maintain a car is important to life skills. I believe if you're going to drive a car, you're not going to have much money. I mean, you're just not. So you need to know how to maintain it because AAA costs money. So you need to know how to do the basics. Change a tire. It's really not that hard.
Change oil changed, yeah.
Oil changes, all those little things that
check
add
your
up.
fluids.
Yeah.
You know, just the simple things. I mean, you know, you shouldn't have to know how to do major mechanical stuff. I mean, because you don't want to mess up your car, but at the same time, you should know how to do the basics.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of gaps there. And, as you both mentioned that you're living with family and that employment options are limited. As a result of that, how much is loneliness a factor for each of you?
I know for me, I struggle with loneliness, and ever since I've moved into this apartment a few years ago, I haven't talked to anyone. This is Joshua Miller at the Autism News Network. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and thank you for listening. Goodbye.